Part 1 begins on a quiet morning in the late 1800s at a small railway stop in the dry southwest. The sun is just starting to rise, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. The station is not busy. Only a few travelers are waiting for the next train. Dust sits on the wooden platform, and the warm air smells of sand and old wood. Thomas Hale, a humble rancher in his mid-30s, arrives at the station to collect a delivery of tools for his ranch. He is tall, soft-spoken, and known for treating everyone with fairness. Thomas has lived most of his life working with cattle, repairing fences, and taking care of the land. He rarely comes to town except for supplies. And even when he does, he speaks only when necessary. But on this morning, his path is about to cross with someone who will later change his life in ways he cannot yet imagine. As Thomas walks along the platform, he notices a young Apache woman standing alone near the far end. She is wearing a simple dress made from woven cloth, and she holds a small bundle of belongings close to her. She looks tired, as if she has been traveling for a long time. Her eyes, though calm, carry a deep sadness. She stands straight, not showing fear, but it is clear she is uncertain about where she will go next. Her name is Nita. The townspeople nearby glance at her, but keep their distance. Some whisper quietly, guessing why she is there alone. A local officer stands nearby, but he looks just as confused as anyone else. He had escorted a small group of people earlier that morning as part of a government relocation effort. Nita's family was moved to another place, but through miscommunication and rushed travel, she somehow got separated. The officer does not know how to reconnect her with her people immediately. So he waits for instructions, while keeping an eye on her to ensure she is safe. Thomas observes all of this quietly. He notices how Nita holds her bundle tightly, how she studies the ground with a calm but heavy expression, and how the officer seems unsure about what to do. Thomas is not a man who meddles in affairs that are not his business, but he cannot ignore the situation. Something in the young woman's eyes reminds him of what loneliness feels like. He remembers times when he had no one to talk to except the wind across the dry fields. He knows how hard it can be to stand in a place where you do not feel you belong. Thomas walks closer, slowly, so as not to alarm anyone. The officer notices him and steps forward. She was part of a group, the officer explains before Thomas even asks. The others were taken to the reservation site. She got separated during the travels. We're waiting for further orders, but I can't leave her here alone. Thomas looks at Nita again. She doesn't raise her head, but she seems aware of his presence. Her posture is quiet but strong, like someone who has learned to carry herself with dignity, even in uncertain times. The officer sighs and says, "If anyone is willing to help her for a day or two, just until we know what to do, that would be appreciated." He doesn't expect anyone to volunteer. People in town are often cautious when they do not understand someone new. Thomas doesn't speak immediately. He studies the situation carefully. He has a sister, Clara, who lives with him on the ranch. She is kind-hearted and understanding. If anyone could make Nita feel safe and respected, it is Clara. Thomas thinks about the ranch. There is space, there is food, and most importantly, there is peace. He realizes that leaving the young woman alone on the platform is not right, especially when she has nowhere else to go. After a moment of thought, he finally speaks, his voice steady and calm. "I'll take her," he says softly. His words surprise the officer, who raises his eyebrows. A couple of townspeople look over, whispering among themselves. Some are curious. Others appear unsure. But Thomas doesn't pay attention to them. He simply means what he says. He will take her to a safe place and give her time to rest until there is a plan for her future. The officer nods, relieved. "Thank you, Thomas. I know you're a decent man. She'll be better off with you than waiting here in the sun." Thomas steps forward and stands a respectful distance from Nita. He does not touch her belongings or gesture too close. He simply says gently, "You can come with me. I have a ranch nearby. You'll be safe, and my sister will help you rest. You don't have to stay long, just until things are sorted out." Nita finally lifts her eyes to look at him. Her gaze is calm, deep, and filled with quiet strength. She studies Thomas for a moment, as if trying to understand his intentions. Thomas does not rush her. He waits patiently, letting her decide. After a long pause, Nita nods slightly. She does not speak, but her eyes soften just a bit, showing that she accepts his offer. She trusts her instincts, and something in Thomas's gentle manner makes her feel she will not be treated unkindly. Thomas gives her space to walk beside him. He picks up the box of tools he had come for and carries it in his hands, while she holds her bundle close. They walk slowly across the platform toward his wagon. The wooden wheels creak softly as he helps her climb in, still careful not to cause her discomfort. Once she is seated, Thomas places his tools beside her and takes his seat at the front. As they begin the ride toward the ranch, the warm wind blows across the open land. The sky stretches endlessly above them, and the distant mountains rise like silent guardians. Nita sits quietly, watching the scenery pass by. She doesn't know what awaits her, but she feels slightly more peaceful than she did on the station platform. Thomas drives the wagon with steady hands, never turning to stare at her or making her feel strange. His calm presence creates a sense of safety she didn't expect to feel so soon after being separated from her family. During the journey, Thomas speaks only once, saying, "My sister's name is Clara. She's very kind. She'll help you settle in." Nita listens quietly and nods. She still doesn't speak, but her silence is not cold. It is simply who she is in this moment, someone trying to understand a new path that life has placed before her. As they approach the ranch, the land becomes open and peaceful. The house is simple but well kept, and a few horses graze in the nearby field. Smoke rises gently from the kitchen chimney, and the place feels calm and homelike. When the wagon stops, Clara steps out from the house with a surprised look. She has never seen an Apache woman this close, but instead of fear, she feels compassion. Clara notices the tired look in Nita's eyes and understands immediately that the young woman needs rest, not questions. Thomas explains the situation briefly to Clara. Clara nods and says warmly, "Come inside. You must be tired." Her voice is gentle, like a soft blanket wrapped around a cold moment. Nita steps down carefully and follows Clara inside. The house smells of warm bread and clean wood. Clara shows her where she can wash and offers her fresh water. Nita accepts with a grateful nod. Thomas stays outside for a moment, letting them have space. He watches the horses graze, thinking about how unexpectedly the day has changed. He doesn't know what will happen next, but he feels that helping Nita was the right thing to do. Inside the house, Nita sits quietly on a chair for the first time in hours. Clara places a warm bowl of soup in front of her. Nita hesitates for a moment, then takes a small sip. The warmth spreads through her, reminding her of home in a distant, tender way. Clara smiles softly, relieved to see her eat. She doesn't ask questions about Nita's past, understanding that some stories are too heavy to share right away. Instead, she gives her space to breathe, to feel safe, to rest. As the sun sets behind the hills, the ranch glows in soft orange light. Thomas finishes his chores and walks inside to check on Nita. He sees her sitting quietly, her shoulders a little more relaxed than before. Clara whispers to him, "She's exhausted. Tomorrow will be a new day." Thomas nods. He looks at Nita and gently says, "You can stay as long as you need. You're safe here." Nita meets his eyes again and gives a small nod. It is not a full smile, but it is the beginning of trust. The night settles in, calm and peaceful. For the first time in days, Nita feels the weight on her heart lighten just enough to breathe without fear. She lies down to rest, knowing that the ranch is not her home. Not yet, but it is a place where she is not alone. A place where kindness exists, even in uncertain times. And that is how the first day ends, with the quiet hope of a new beginning. Part 2 begins the next morning at the ranch, where the warm sunlight slowly fills the rooms with a soft golden glow. Nita wakes up early, even before Clara. Because she is used to rising with the sun, she sits quietly for a moment, her hands resting on the small blanket Clara gave her the night before. For a moment, she forgets where she is. and her heart tightens as memories of her lost family return. But when she looks around the simple room, she remembers Clara's kindness and Thomas's gentle calmness from the day before. The thought gives her a small sense of comfort, even though her heart still feels heavy. She steps outside and sees the open land stretching far into the horizon. The air is cool, and a few birds sit on the wooden fence near the barn, chirping softly. This quiet moment allows her to breathe freely for the first time in days. Thomas is already outside, working with the horses. He looks up and gives Nita a small nod, not wanting to overwhelm her with conversation. He respects her silence and understands that she needs time to adjust. He points toward the water bucket, and then toward the sunrise, as if he is showing her the simple beauty of the morning. Nita nods back, appreciating his gentle way of communicating without words. Clara steps out of the house soon after, holding a warm cup of tea. When she sees Nita standing near the fence, she smiles warmly and says, "You're up early. Would you like some tea?" Nita hesitates for a moment, then nods. Clara pours her a cup and hands it to her with both hands as a sign of respect. Nita accepts it the same way. The warm steam rises between them, creating a soft moment of understanding. After breakfast, Clara shows Nita around the house and the small garden behind it. The garden has a few rows of vegetables, carrots, beans, and herbs. The plants are not many, but they are healthy because Clara takes good care of them. Nita kneels beside the plants and touches the soil gently. She understands the earth well. She has grown plants before and recognizes the signs of healthy growth. Clara notices this and smiles to herself, thinking that maybe Nita would enjoy helping in the garden. Inside the house, Clara slowly begins showing Nita where things are kept: plates, cloths, water basins. She does not expect her to work but offers small tasks so that Nita can feel less like a stranger. To Clara's surprise, Nita naturally begins helping. She folds cloths, sweeps the floor, and washes a few cups without being asked. Clara feels touched by her quiet effort. The days pass slowly, each one giving Nita more time to understand the new world around her. She begins to learn simple tasks of ranch life by watching Thomas. She watches how he feeds the horses, how he checks the fences for loose boards, how he collects water from the well, and how he carries tools with steady hands. Thomas never orders her to help. Instead, he lets her come closer at her own pace. When she shows interest in something, like tying rope or carrying feed, he teaches her with gentle gestures. He speaks softly, and only when needed, which makes Nita feel comfortable. One afternoon, Thomas is fixing a saddle in the barn. Nita walks over quietly and watches him work. He notices her presence but continues tying the leather carefully. After a moment, he hands her a small piece of soft cloth and shows her how to clean the saddle's edges. Nita follows his example, her movements light and precise. Thomas gives a small approving nod. It is the first time they work side by side, and though they do not speak, the silence between them feels calm, not heavy. Clara observes them from the window and smiles gently. She senses something subtle forming between them: not love yet, but respect, curiosity, and a growing connection that neither of them speaks about. In the evenings, Clara tries to bring Nita into small conversations. She talks about the weather, the animals, or a recipe she is trying to improve. At first, Nita only listens and nods, but slowly she begins saying a few words, her voice soft and careful. Clara never pushes her to share more than she wants. She knows that trust grows gently, like a seed. One evening, as the three sit around the dinner table, Clara tells a light story from her childhood. Thomas gives a rare smile, and Nita watches the siblings with interest. When Clara laughs softly, Nita feels a warm feeling inside her, something she has not felt in a long time. A sense of safety, a sense of belonging, even if temporary. But not everything is easy. Every time Nita sees the distant mountains, memories come back to her, memories of her family, of her people, of the rhythm of life she used to know. Some nights she cannot sleep, thinking about where her family might be. She sits near the window, looking out at the moonlit land, wondering whether she will ever see them again. She never complains or shares her sorrow, but Thomas and Clara both sense the sadness behind her quiet eyes. One day, Clara finds Nita standing by the fence, staring at the horizon. Clara stands beside her for a moment and says gently, "If you ever want to talk, I'm here." Nita looks at her and gives a small nod. She still cannot bring herself to speak about her pain, but she appreciates the kindness. During the weeks that follow, Nita learns more about ranch work. She becomes comfortable helping Clara cook simple meals. She learns how to carry water without spilling it and how to mend small tears in clothing. She even helps Thomas gather eggs from the chickens in the early morning. The chickens follow her around, seemingly liking her calm presence. Thomas smiles when he sees this and says, "Looks like they trust you." Nita gives a small smile, a rare and gentle one. Whenever they go into town, things are different. Some people look at Nita with curiosity, while a few look at her with judgment. Nita notices every glance, though she keeps her face calm. Clara stays close to her, trying to shield her from uncomfortable stares. Thomas always walks slightly ahead, making sure no one says anything unkind. Although no one speaks out loud, Nita can feel the quiet distance the townspeople keep. The experience makes her quieter when they return home. She does not say anything, but her shoulders droop slightly, and her eyes grow distant. Thomas notices this. He wishes he could protect her from such moments, but he knows he cannot change how people think. What he can do is make sure the ranch remains a place where she never feels judged. One afternoon, as they sit outside watching the sky turn orange, Thomas says softly, "You don't have to go to town often if you're not comfortable." Nita looks at him and nods, appreciating that he understands even when she does not speak. Over time, Nita becomes more familiar with the daily rhythm of the ranch. She begins waking up with purpose, helping Clara prepare morning meals, checking on the garden, and assisting Thomas with simple chores. Clara often praises her, saying, "You have a gentle way with the land." Nita always responds with a humble nod. Thomas, too, notices her strength and patience. She works quietly but carefully. She never rushes. She observes everything with deep thought, as if she wants to understand the ranch as much as possible. Thomas finds himself thinking about her even when they are not near each other, not in a romantic way, but in admiration for the way she carries herself. One day, when Thomas is repairing a broken fence, he accidentally drops a piece of wood. Before he can pick it up, Nita steps forward and hands it to him. Their hands brush for a brief moment, but they both quickly look away. It is a simple moment, but it stays in Thomas's mind longer than he expects. He realizes that he has started looking forward to seeing her every morning. But he also knows he must be careful. He does not want to make her uncomfortable or pressured in any way. Her peace matters more than his feelings. As the weeks pass, Nita begins to feel something she hasn't felt in a very long time, a quiet sense of belonging. She knows this ranch is not her true home, but it is a place where people treat her with dignity. She starts to feel less like a guest and more like part of a small, gentle circle. Clara gives her a small woven shawl one evening, saying, "I made this for you. I hope it keeps you warm." Nita touches the fabric with care, her eyes softening. She has not received a gift in a long time, and the kindness touches her deeply. That night, as she lies in bed with the shawl around her shoulders, she feels warmth not just on her skin but in her heart. She whispers a quiet thank you to the empty room, knowing Clara will never hear it, but the emotion behind it is sincere. The ranch slowly becomes a place where Nita's sadness softens just a little, where Clara's kindness becomes a daily comfort, and where Thomas's steady presence silently supports her without asking for anything in return. Though she is still unsure of her future, she begins to feel that maybe, just maybe, life is giving her a small chance to breathe again. Part 3 begins with the warm days of early summer settling over the ranch. The grass has grown taller, the cattle wander in slow groups, and the gentle hum of insects fills the air around sunset. The ranch feels peaceful, but a quiet change begins to form as the outside world starts noticing Nita's presence more than before. One morning, Thomas prepares to go to town for supplies. Clara usually joins him, but she has extra chores to finish at home. So she asks Nita gently, "Would you like to come with Thomas?" "Only if you feel comfortable." Nita hesitates. She still remembers the curious looks from the townspeople during her first visit. But Clara's warm voice gives her a little courage. After a moment, Nita nods. Thomas senses her uncertainty as soon as they start the journey. He guides the wagon slowly, giving her time to relax. The road is open and quiet, with the sun rising behind them. Nita watches the land pass by the hills, the scattered bushes, the small river, shining in the distance. She holds her bundle of cloth close, her fingers tightening around it whenever she feels anxious. When they enter the town, the familiar murmur of voices fills the air. Wooden shops line the street, and horses stand tied outside small stores. Thomas greets a few people politely, but he notices that several eyes turn toward Nita. Some look curious, some confused, and a few hold stiff expressions. Nita feels these glances deeply. She keeps her eyes down, staying close to the wagon. Thomas speaks to her in a soft voice. It won't take long, trying to ease her discomfort. Inside the general store, the shopkeeper greets Thomas warmly. When he notices Nita standing behind him, his smile fades only slightly. He does not say anything unkind, but the shift in his expression is enough for Nita to feel unwelcome. Thomas sees this too, and his jaw tightens a little, though he stays calm and polite. He buys flour, soap, and a few tools. Nita helps carry some items without being asked. The shopkeeper watches her for a moment, then looks away, busying himself with other tasks. As they leave, Thomas gently lifts the heavier bags onto the wagon. He glances at Nita, noticing the quiet sadness in her eyes. The ride back to the ranch is silent. Nita looks out toward the open land again, her heart heavy. She had grown comfortable in the peaceful atmosphere of the ranch, but the town reminds her of how the world sees her as someone different. Someone not fully welcomed. Her silence feels thicker than usual. When they return, Clara notices Nita's expression immediately. She walks over and places her hand lightly on Nita's shoulder, offering quiet comfort without asking questions. Nita gives a small nod, though her eyes still reflect the sting of the experience. Later that day, Nita sits near the garden, pulling small weeds from the soil. The simple task usually calms her, but today her mind keeps returning to the looks she received in town. Her thoughts grow heavy, and she pauses, staring at the earth with distant eyes. Thomas approaches her carefully. He does not want to interrupt her thoughts, but he feels responsible for the sadness she carries. He kneels down beside the garden, picking a few weeds himself. For a moment, they work side by side in silence. Then he says quietly, "People do not always understand what they see, but you don't deserve to feel unwelcome." Nita looks at him. His voice is gentle, not forceful. She appreciates that he acknowledges her feelings without making her speak. She gives a small nod and returns to pulling weeds, feeling just a little lighter. Days pass, and Nita slowly regains her calm rhythm at the ranch. But the world outside continues to bring small challenges. News spreads in town that Thomas has taken in an Apache woman. Some neighbors are simply curious, others whisper assumptions without ever meeting her. A few ranchers even ask Thomas if he is sure about having her on his land. Thomas listens quietly but does not allow their doubts to influence him. He answers simply, "She is safe here." And that is enough. His steady response surprises many townspeople, who expect him to apologize or explain himself. But Thomas does not waver. One afternoon, while Thomas is visiting a nearby ranch to pick up extra hay, two ranchers make small comments about Nita. They do not say anything harmful, but their tone carries unnecessary judgment. Thomas stays calm, but his voice becomes firmer when he replies, "Respect costs nothing. She has done nothing to deserve anyone's cruelty." After that, the conversation ends quickly. When Thomas returns home, he keeps his thoughts to himself. He does not tell Nita about the rancher's comments, not wanting to burden her. But Clara notices something different in him, a protective silence that grows each day. Clara sits beside him one evening while Nita is inside sewing. She says softly, "You care about her more than you let on." Thomas looks at her with quiet surprise, but Clara simply smiles. Not in a rushed way, she continues, but in the way someone cares when they see another person hurting. Thomas looks down at his hands. I don't know what I feel, he admits. I just know I don't want her to be mistreated. Clara nods knowingly. Sometimes protecting someone shows love, even before we realize it. Thomas does not respond, but her words stay in his heart. As summer continues, the ranch faces its own small challenges. One evening, a strong storm arrives unexpectedly. Dark clouds gather quickly, and heavy winds shake the wooden fence near the horse corral. Thomas rushes outside to check the animals. Without hesitation, Nita follows him, her shawl tightly wrapped around her shoulders. The wind pushes hard, but they work together, moving calmly and quickly. Thomas secures the loose boards, while Nita guides the horses safely into the stable. Their movements are steady, like two people who understand each other without needing to speak. Rain begins falling in sharp, fast drops, soaking their clothes. Nita holds a lantern to help Thomas see, shielding it from the wind with her hand. Thomas glances at her and gives a grateful nod. By the time the storm settles, they are both drenched but relieved. The animals are safe, the fence is stable again, and the ranch stands strong against the weather. When they return to the house, Clara rushes toward them with towels, scolding them gently for getting soaked. Nita laughs softly for the first time in days, surprising both Thomas and Clara. The storm breaks something open inside her, not fear, but connection. Working beside Thomas makes her realize how deeply she trusts him. She sees how he moves to protect the animals, the land, and even her, without ever demanding anything in return. In the following days, the bond between Thomas and Nita grows more visible, though still unspoken. They walk together to feed the chickens, carry water from the well, or check the garden's progress. Clara watches them and smiles, knowing that something gentle and special is forming. But Nita carries a secret worry. She fears becoming attached to the ranch when she still does not know where her family is, or whether she can ever reunite with them. In quiet moments, she wonders what she should do. The ranch feels safe, but is it right for her to stay? She does not know yet. One evening, Nita sits on the wooden steps outside the house, watching the sunset turn the sky into shades of gold and deep red. Thomas joins her, sitting a respectful distance away. After a long, peaceful silence, he says quietly, "You make this place brighter." Nita looks at him with surprise, unsure how to respond. Thomas lowers his gaze slightly, as if embarrassed by his own words. "You don't have to say anything," he adds softly. "I just wanted you to know." Nita's heart warms, but she still feels the pull of her past. She gazes at the distant mountains, wondering where her people are, and whether they are safe. As the sky darkens and stars appear, Thomas rises and says, "If you ever decide you want to talk about your past, I'll listen. But only if you choose." Nita nods. That night, she sleeps with a mix of emotions in her heart. Comfort from Thomas's kindness, confusion about her future, and a growing attachment she is not ready to name. Over the next week, life continues its quiet rhythm. Clara teaches Nita how to sew stronger seams. Thomas shows her how to guide a horse gently without pulling the reins too hard. Nita starts understanding the land around the ranch, where the soft ground lies, where the wind feels strongest, and which spots catch the most sunlight in the morning. One afternoon, while feeding the chickens, Nita drops a handful of corn by accident. Thomas bends down to help her collect it. As they pick up the scattered kernels, their hands brush lightly. Both freeze for a moment, not in fear, but in a quiet awareness neither of them can deny anymore. Thomas quickly pulls his hand back, his face warm with embarrassment. Nita lowers her eyes, her heart beating a little faster. The moment is small, but it carries a silent meaning neither of them speaks aloud. As the days pass, Nita begins to feel something she never expected to feel again, a sense of belonging that grows stronger each morning. She wakes up at the ranch, but she still does not know where her future leads. The world outside is uncertain, and her past still feels unfinished. Part 3 ends with Nita standing outside the house one evening, watching a soft breeze move across the tall grass. Thomas stands a short distance away, pretending to fix the fence but quietly watching her with gentle eyes. Both feel the same unspoken connection, but neither knows how to name it yet. Life at the ranch has changed them both, but the biggest decisions of Nita's life are still ahead. When the sun rose on the ranch that morning, the sky was soft and golden, as if it wanted to bless the new beginning that lay ahead for both Adam and Naya. The sweet smell of the open fields drifted in through the windows, mixing with the aroma of fresh bread baking in the kitchen. The ranch felt peaceful, almost as if it understood that something important was unfolding within its wide boundaries. Naya woke up early, before Adam and before anyone else. She stepped outside, letting the cool air touch her face. For a long moment, she just stood there quietly, watching the horses grazing near the fence and listening to the distant call of morning birds. When she thought about the journey that had brought her to this place, she felt a mixture of gratitude, disbelief, and hope. She had come to the ranch as a stranger, unsure of what her future would be. Now, she no longer felt like someone who was simply passing through. She felt like someone who belonged. Inside the house, Adam was already awake, though he had stayed quietly in the kitchen, giving her space. When she finally stepped back inside, he greeted her with a gentle smile. It wasn't a loud smile, not a forced one. It was the kind that came from real respect and warmth. And she smiled back, not out of politeness, but because she wanted to. They shared breakfast together, and the atmosphere felt easy and natural. Naya noticed the way Adam would ask her about her comfort, about anything she needed, without making her feel burdened or pressured. Adam noticed how she moved through the ranch house with quiet confidence, no longer afraid of each corner or new face. They were still learning about each other, but both could sense that something strong had formed between them, something that didn't need to be rushed. As the day continued, the ranch workers arrived to start their morning tasks. They had grown accustomed to Naya's presence. At first, some of them had watched her with curiosity, unsure of who she was or what her story might be. But over the weeks, they had seen her kindness, her sincerity, and the way she never hesitated to help with small tasks. They now greeted her with friendly nods and smiles, something she appreciated deeply. Later that morning, Adam invited Naya to join him on a long walk across the back fields. The fields stretched far, decorated with wildflowers and soft grass that moved gently in the breeze. As they walked, they talked about simple things, favorite foods, memories from childhood, dreams for the future. With each step, the distance between them grew smaller, and their understanding of each other grew deeper. At one point, they stopped near a fallen tree trunk, where Adam took a seat. Naya sat beside him, leaving a small but respectful distance. For a while, they just sat in silence, watching the open land in front of them. It was Naya who spoke first. She said softly that she had never imagined finding a place where she could feel safe again. She shared how life had brought her many challenges, how there were moments when she doubted good people even existed. Then she looked at Adam with eyes that held no fear, only trust, and said he had proved her wrong in the best way. Adam felt her words settle deeply inside him. He had always tried to live his life with honesty and fairness, but hearing her say those things made him understand how much his kindness meant. He told her she deserved a life full of peace, respect, and happiness, and that he hoped she found all of that here, whether with him or on her own terms. He reminded her that she was free to choose her future, that nothing would ever be forced upon her. That assurance warmed her heart even more. Their walk continued until the afternoon sun grew bright and warm. They returned to the ranch, where a few visitors had arrived. Neighbors and local families who often stopped by to bring fresh produce, help with repairs, or simply share news. Naya, once shy around strangers, now greeted them kindly. Some of the women spoke to her, curious about her life and delighted by her gentle nature. One of them even gave her a light blue scarf, saying it suited her beautiful hair. Naya held the scarf close, touched by the unexpected kindness. The rest of the afternoon went by smoothly. Adam had ranch matters to handle, and Naya spent time learning more about the household tasks she enjoyed. The two crossed paths several times, sharing smiles that said more than words ever could. That evening, Adam invited her to sit outside again, just like they had done many times before. The sky was glowing with soft purples and oranges. As the sun sank behind the hills, the air was warm and calm, perfect for quiet conversation. When they sat together on the wooden bench near the porch, everything felt balanced, natural, gentle, and full of quiet promise. Adam took a deep breath before speaking. He told her he had something important to say, but he wanted her to listen without feeling obligated to respond right away. She nodded, giving him her full attention. He explained that over the weeks, he had grown to admire her strength, her gentleness, and her spirit. He told her that he respected her story and that she had changed his life in ways he never expected. Then, very carefully, he said he cared for her, truly cared for her, and that he would be honored if one day she felt the same way. But he repeated again that her freedom mattered more than anything else. If she ever decided to leave, he would help her in any way he could. If she chose to stay, he wanted her to stay because she wanted to, not because she felt she owed him anything. Naya listened quietly, her heart full. A few weeks ago, such words would have frightened her. But now, they felt comforting. She appreciated the honesty in his voice, the gentleness in his expression. She took a moment before speaking. She told him she didn't know everything about the future, but she knew she felt safe with him. She knew she felt respected, valued, and understood. And she knew she felt something growing inside her, something calm, strong, and hopeful. She wasn't ready to name it yet, but she was ready to explore it. Adam accepted her words with a warm smile, the kind that carried no disappointment, only understanding and gratitude. They didn't need more than that. They sat together in peaceful silence as the stars emerged one by one, filling the sky with soft, sparkling light. In the following days, life on the ranch continued in a gentle rhythm. Naya learned more about the horses, finding joy in brushing their coats, feeding them, and even walking beside them as they grazed. She felt a connection to the land, a connection she had never felt anywhere else. The wide skies, the quiet mornings, the kind neighbors, and Adam's steady presence, all made her feel like she was building a life filled with meaning. Adam, too, felt grateful every day. He admired the way she found beauty in small things, like the sound of the wind or the softness of a horse's mane. He admired her patience and her strength. He never rushed her or overwhelmed her. Instead, he stayed steady and present, allowing their bond to grow naturally. As winter approached, the ranch began preparing for colder days. Naya helped decorate the house with simple handmade items, woven mats, dried flowers, and colorful cloth pieces. The house felt warmer, more alive. Adam often watched quietly as she worked, appreciating how her presence had brought new light into the home. On the night before the first snowfall, they sat again on the porch, wrapped in warm blankets. Snowflakes began to fall slowly from the sky, covering the ground in soft white layers. The world looked peaceful and new, as if it were beginning again, just like the two hearts, sitting side by side. Naya turned to Adam and said softly that she was happy, truly happy. She didn't say much more, but the way she looked at him told him everything he needed to know. She had chosen her path, and her path had gently woven itself together with his. And in that quiet moment, beneath the falling snow and the endless sky, the story of the rancher and the beautiful Apache woman found its peaceful, hopeful ending, not in grand declarations, but in simple, shared moments, filled with trust, respect, and the promise of a future shaped by kindness.